new mic today, so let me know how that's going. It's not really to have a new mic, I just want to have a backup. So I've had this one for a while and I'm testing it. So let me know how the audio is coming in. P-Man Van, hope you're doing well. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Great to be here for coffee and my favorite Moscow time. We got a good Moscow time today. You're going to like it. Excellent Moscow time. Good day, Bitcoiners, indeed. Good day. Good day. We got good morning. Great day to Bitcoin. Calvis has a question for us. How can I go from 0.03 Bitcoin to at least 1? Well, it's not rocket science. That's why we love Bitcoin. It is as boring as it sounds. One foot in front of the other, one word after the other, one sat on top of the other. So there you go. That's what we like about Bitcoin. There's no tricks, no shortcuts, right? It's hold on for dear life. That's what we like to say, right? And we know HODL isn't hold on for dear life. I met the HODL guy, right? We know it's not hold on for dear life, but it always worked. Joe with it's a great day. Good morning, everyone. It is a great day. It is indeed a great day, but I'm telling you, it is dark out. So we're going to have some weird shadows. I got a bright light here. I'm back in Montreal and looks like tons of rain coming. So I might not go to Vermont tomorrow because more flooding and they just had a flood. And I'm up on the hill. I don't got to worry about it, but not much to do. Weekend parties probably canceled. So my kids won't have as much fun. So we'll see. Whatever. We're going to have fun. Now, let us all acknowledge that at least the sun is up, although it's dark, but Bitcoin's running the same as ever, weather independent, right? So all that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. That was a sip of coffee that I saved. I didn't have enough time to brew fresh coffee. Oh, Calvis is making a joke. Pardon me, Calvis. Pardon me. I know, I'm just kidding. In Latvia, a small average salary. And actually, I'm playing poker for a living. Just want to have more Bitcoin. I love the poker playing. I've met some people that do that, and it's a pretty neat thing because people don't realize it's skill. I know it's skill because I'm one of the worst poker players you'll ever come against. I do not have a poker face. I can't. Everyone knows when I have a good hand, so I don't even bother with the poker. I'm good at a lot of games. Ones that have to do with like convincing people to do stuff, like when you're Settlers of Catan, I'm almost unbeatable. Almost. You can lose from here and there, but there you go. Bitcoin Graffiti with a Saskatchewan. Indeed, Saskatchewan. How's it going? Good morning from California. Yeah. You bluffing. No. I'm no good, man. Calvis, I hate to tell you, my wife just cleans me out if ever I'm at a poker table with her. I'm just not a good poker player. I never have been, but that's okay. I got a perma-smile, and it's hard to hide. So there you go. GTFM time chainers indeed. All right. Now, let's get into some Moscow time. This one's pretty good. Now, I got to tell you, Nifty Nye, who is going to be at Bitcoin Amsterdam, October 12th to 13th. I met her in Texas, and she was wearing a beautiful flowery dress with some puffy shoulders. Brilliant woman. And then I saw her again in Miami for Bitcoin 2023. There you go, wearing some beautiful flowery dresses. But now I got to tell Nifty Nye that she has been duped, right? According to The Guardian, frilly dresses and white supremacy. Welcome to the weird, frightening world of trad wives. She's not married, but she wears the clothes, so she's got to be careful. Nifty, watch out. You're hanging out with you're signaling white supremacy here, okay? And the author, Sian Norris, S-I-A-N, a female, says, no longer a far-right subculture, the movement's anti-feminist tenets are now inserting themselves into mainstream Western politics. Careful, everyone. Frilly dresses. Yikes. BBC with this one. Eating less meat like taking 8 million cars off the road. So again, I'm going to keep telling y'all, right? The best you can do, according to the BBC, to help the world is don't eat meat, guys. We don't like it. It's no good. It's not good. Oh, but if that's not enough, right? If you haven't done enough by not eating meat, we got other plans. And LA Times has some advice today. They ask a really important question. Would an occasional blackout help solve climate change? Pondering important things in the newspaper. Now, this next headline from the Daily Wire reads like Moscow time, but it's not. So, you know how we always talk about we actually can't tell the difference now between a Babylon Bee headline and a mainstream news headline. They're regularly the same. And this is a regular headline, although if the Babylon Bee had written it, I don't think we could tell the difference. So here's what happened. Dems try and fail to censor RFK at a censorship hearing. That's an actual headline today. So what the hell happened? Well, it turned out when Robert Kennedy tried to speak yesterday, we were pumping up the presence. He was at the weaponization of the federal government hearings yesterday on Capitol Hill. And before he even got started, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, if you remember her, she was heavily involved in the Clinton campaign. She was the head of the Democrat National Party at the time Clinton was running in 2016, and she became a congresswoman in Florida in the 2016 election. So here she goes. She decides that because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable, anti-Semitic, and anti-Asian comments, the anti-Asian is now thrown in, right? I don't know which ones those were. As recently as last week. Oh, update before we get into more of the censorship stuff. This is one story that came out. Now, remember, we don't believe any science with COVID, none, even if it confirms our own narrative and our own suspicions. It's all garbage. So before I mention some science that confirms my own narrative, my own predispositions, all that stuff, right? I just got to say, this is probably as fake as the other stuff that's out there. Probably, who knows? We don't know anything about science, right? But it turns out in Australia, they have been doing some studies on COVID predisposition to, or genetic predisposition to COVID. And they found some interesting stuff, right? So, whoops. Here's what they say. Australian scientists back up the claim by RFK Jr. that COVID wasn't affecting 10% of the population, proving it was an ethnic bioweapon. I don't believe it proves that. I don't believe any science can prove that, right? I think there's other circumstances that might, but it's not whatever this science is saying, right? But nevertheless, let's keep reading. RFK Jr. stated the ACE2 and some other blah, 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 polymorphism analysis, yada, 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 showed COVID-19 wasn't affecting Chinese or Ashkenazi Jews. Australian scientists found that carrying the gene made them 8 times more likely to have no symptoms. So who knows, right? But nevertheless, that's the thing he said was really, really racist, right? He's racist. Racist, as I like to say. So the congressman cited a House rule. So going back to Debbie Wasserman Schultz here, the congressman cited a House rule against testimony that may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, which would allow the committee to aside to determine whether to allow the testimony at issue during the open hearing. In making her case, Wasserman Schultz cited, among many other things, comments Kennedy recently made about COVID-19. And so she goes on, they tried it, but it didn't work out. And what happened was Brian Massey, who we love, right? Brian Massey is a really interesting guy, and we've been talking about him for a long time. And he is 100% a dissident on that BBC News about the beef, right? So remember that. A vote ensued after Thomas Massey moved to table the motion and made a point of order to ask, is this custom of the committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses? In the end, it didn't work, and he came. But when Thomas Massey voted yes to not censor, but listen to how the Democrats voted on this. One said no to the Soviet Politburo. Imagine calling a Kennedy a Soviet Politburo guy. And then Dan Goldman from New York says no to hate speech. So Kennedy continues to go up in polling and all kinds of interesting metrics. One of the interesting things that we saw yesterday in his testimony, and of course it was brilliant, it was insightful, he pushed aside, after they tried to censor him, he pushed aside his remarks and went right at the issue at hand. What has happened to the Democrats? How is this even possible? How are you calling me all these crazy names? Americans need to come together. He talked about his family history of reaching across the aisle, of his uncle Ted Kennedy at Hyannisport at the family compound, regularly bringing Orrin Hatch and other Republican politicians to the House. And this was someone that Kennedy, when he was a young kid, hated, said, oh, how can you bring these people? They're bringing spies and all kinds of people. And it was always said, well, look, if we're going to have any success, we got to talk across the aisle. Americans have to come together. And he ended up talking about the light inside of us and what we need to get to the point we need to get to where Americans can come together again and not fight about every single thing. And he talked about the brainwashing and the gaslighting, right? The intense amount of energy put and effort put to make sure Americans are fighting each other all the time and how this is weaponized, right? That was really what he was talking about yesterday, the weaponization of the federal government to get people to fight about these things. Now, remember what we said originally about Kennedy and why his candidacy was so important and why it was so effective. We mentioned it many times. Remember the thing that we love most about Donald Trump, right, is that Donald Trump was able, especially the early Trump fans like myself, right? I am a 2015 Trump is going to win, never backed down, never doubted it, was certain he was going to win the minute I saw him because of what he was doing to the Republican Party. That was the most important thing in my mind that could happen back then in 2015, was that conservative politics, whatever you want to call it, I don't even think of myself as a conservative necessarily, right? Just like I don't think of Democrats as necessarily liberal, right? I'm pretty much liberal. I agree with most of the objectives of the Democrat Party, or at least their old objectives. I want a better world. I don't want anyone being treated poorly. I don't want racism affecting anyone's life or limiting them. I don't want anything to do with people dying in a hospital because they can't pay the bills. I don't want anything to do with any of that stuff, right? So, when Kennedy spoke yesterday, he really, I think, opened everyone's eyes to what I've been saying for a while. In the same way that Trump was able to destroy the old Republican Party from within. I've mentioned it many times in the show. Remember the Armageddon analogy, the movie Armageddon, where there's a asteroid headed for Earth and you can't throw nuclear bombs on top of it or at it. You have to go inside, and they bring an oil drilling team. It was Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis, and they go inside of they take a rocket ship up and they go inside of an asteroid and they plant one nuclear bomb inside. And what they used to explain it in the movie is a firecracker, right? If I throw a firecracker at you, it may sting a bit, but you're just going to keep moving if you're running at me. But if you put a firecracker in someone's hand and close their fist, see what happens, right? It's going to force their fist open, and that was what they said was going to be the effectiveness of this drilling and a nuclear bomb inside. That's what Trump was. Trump was a nuclear bomb inside of the Republican Party. And we've said for a while, and I've characterized Trump's skills, his rhetoric skills, as similar to a prompt engineer, right? When we see AI act in a certain way, and that's our theme today, right? Prompt engineering, artificial ignorance, right? You can prompt engineer artificial intelligence, but you can very easily do the opposite, right? So Trump, I'm not saying he engineered artificial ignorance, but what we do understand is that it's very difficult, no matter who you are, to keep your own opinion if you're in Trump's presence. He might repel you or repulse you to another opinion, but whatever opinion you had in his presence will be modified. And we're starting to learn certain truths about the human mind because of AI. I don't think anyone is immune to being prompt engineered. It's simply the way the human brain works. You have input and something happens inside of that fleshy, spongy computer we keep in our brains, and something else comes out. And so what happens is we can't necessarily stop the process. It would be like stopping breathing. It's just how the thing is rigged. And because of that, we saw Trump, cause mental handicap reactions, broken brain reactions, because it was too much for some people. We'll talk a little bit about the downside of what Trump does, because Vivek brought it up in some really interesting ways. We'll talk about that a little later. But when Kennedy yesterday was talking about about gaslighting and what a problem it was and how much trouble Americans have speaking to them anymore because of the amount of lying that's happened, the amount of spin, the amount of actual prompt engineering for artificial ignorance. No one can be that stupid in the end. It has to be manipulated. And I think one of the big things we're going to learn about AI that it's going to open up in the human mind is that we are as susceptible as any one of these machines, right? When people say, oh, when is artificial intelligence going to be as smart as humans? We're not very smart. We're very susceptible, very manipulatable. Even Trump, even the best prompt engineers can be themselves manipulated. And we're learning more and more that it's just a way we're built. There's no way around it. So when he came out and made that speech yesterday, and now there's a ton of reaction on the outside, right? And exactly as I predicted, right? You can have all of this ignorance, but what Kennedy is doing to the Democrat Party is exactly what Trump did to the Republican Party 7 years ago. And here's some of the reactions. It's not just me who thinks that. Here's Jesse Waters talking about what he saw yesterday in the the Kennedy testimony. He says Democrats wanted. So Jesse Waters, by the way, is the guy who got the Tucker Carlson time slot in Fox News, and it looks like he's going to be as much trouble to Fox as Tucker Carlson was, right? He's not really a very easily censorable guy, and he's another fella that can actually go. He's another guy that can actually probably go on his own, right? He's got the look, he's got a lot of things going for him, and I know Trump loves him, right? He's now one of the only guys I think a lot of run-of-the-mill Republicans like now on the Fox network. By the way, if you guys didn't hear, even this weekend at Turning Point USA, which is a big sort of grassroots thing, all the presidential candidates were there. Trump was there, Bannon was there, Tucker Carlson did all these interviews. We covered it the other day. If you saw, they did a straw poll of the audience. Who amongst you still watches Fox News, or who amongst you stopped watching Fox News? And every single hand went up. Every hand. No one watches Fox News anymore, right? And I removed it from my app within days of the 2020 election. The minute I saw the corporate pivot, done, out, right? The minute they were citing SBF's prediction market as like neutral, right? Remember that SBF and FTX had a prediction market. The largest donor to the Biden campaign had an election prediction market, which was cited regularly in the week after the 2020 election. At the same time, people were saying, oh, look, who's this young kid who's the biggest Biden donor in the world, right? Well, there you go. So this is what Jesse Waters said. Democrats wanted to censor RFK Jr. at a censorship hearing today. They threw every smear in the book at him. He was attacked by his own party for doing what Kennedys have always done, having vocal opinions. Democrats don't like that because they want to protect Big Pharma at all costs. They censor and smear people like you, me, or RFK, and then big corporations like Pfizer get rich off us. A Kennedy asking questions is the Democrats' biggest nightmare. Remember what I said about the effectiveness even of the branding of a Kennedy Democrat. The minute I saw that sign when he announced, I said, no, that's as good as MAGA, right? And it is. It's as powerful as MAGA. Here's War Clandestine, who we like to cite regularly on this show. If you're not following War Clandestine, you should. He is great on Twitter. He says here, the reason why the DNC establishment are terrified of RFK is because he is showing the public how Democrats are supposed to behave and the qualities they used to have. RFK is exposing the DNC from an entirely new angle that Trump never could, from the inside. Now, this is exactly what we've been talking about for months. We've been talking about this since, I don't know how long I've been doing this Armageddon analogy for you all. It's been months and months and months. And I think that is really what is most promising about his candidacy. You simply can't stop the message from spreading inside the echo chamber. And that's what makes his testimony yesterday devastating. That's what makes, and especially his message, right? Unity, coming together. This is what Chief Nerd says, right? Robert Kennedy responds to the smear attacks against him and calls for unity. We have to stop trying to destroy each other. It's just like when they tried to get him in this Trump-Kennedy feud, right? What do you think, Kennedy, about Trump liking you, right? Well, he's an American. Great. I'm proud that Trump likes me, right? Completely different take than you'll ever hear from any Democrat politician, and one of the most successful ones out there. So and here's Bill Ackman as well, talking about that unity and stuff coming together. So Bill Ackman, a typical Dem donor, right? A typical anti-Trump, broken brain liberal, right? And he says, this is a really important and moving speech. Listen to all of it with your own ears, not through someone else's depiction. Put aside any preconceived notions on Kennedy. These are words that can help save our democracy and our country. I do not say this lightly. This will be the best use of 10 minutes today. And, he got roaring applause. He gave his opening statement on the weaponization of the federal government, and lots of people were excited about it, even pointing to his campaign team saying, these are people who would normally not get along in real life, but on our campaign, everybody's together. These are not political centrists even. These are sort of extreme left-wing and right-wing people, but on that campaign, because of what we're talking about, because we're talking about the weaponization of the federal government, because we understand, and I think the platform of World War III, which is what all Bitcoiners, myself included, have been talking about for a while, that World War III is not countries against countries. It's not groups of people within a country against each other. It's not civil war. It's not World War II. It's a brand new form. It's government against people. Now, the government has some people on its side, but that shouldn't be confused with two factions of Americans. You have one faction of Americans using prompt engineering in order to secure artificial ignorance. And you can see that story in all of its unbelievable glory, with Emma Jo Morris's testimony and everything we learned yesterday about the Hunter Biden laptop. Again, it's not like this is news to us here. We've been talking about this for a while. We had some confirmations yesterday that are pretty interesting. So first of all, the Emma Jo Morris testimony, she was sitting right next to RFK on the testimony table, whatever it is, the bar, called to the bar. And so she's the actual original writer of the Hunter Biden laptop story in the New York Times that was suppressed and censored just before the election. So the best part of her testimony yesterday, and this is a lesson I give my daughters all the time, right, about female power and what's the best thing they can do going forward and how they can deal with boys or men or whatever. And I've explained to them that the most effective thing a woman can ever do, or a girl can do to a boy, is laugh at them, right? It's devastating to boys. Boys cannot handle being laughed at by girls for whatever reason. Very, very effective, very, very powerful. Female laughter is something that absolutely destabilizes males and is a lot of trouble. And watching her yesterday testifying, so she's with Breitbart now, she was with the New York Post, and what she did trying to explain remember the earmarked, the 51 known liars, right? The known liars, the people who did the Russia collusion hoax, and then the news printed their letter saying, the earmarks of Russian disinformation and all of these things, right? She now, after all we know, she tried to just read the letter that they wrote, and she couldn't get through it. She started cracking up and laughing. And when you actually get laughter at the laptop cover-up clown story, that brings it to the new level, right? Female laughter is not the same as a bunch of men being angry about democracy. Where's my democracy? I can talk my democracy. Watching a lady laugh about these losers is probably the most important thing we're going to see, right? Like, so, so we get La Mañana say, of course we love female laughter. I just mean that it's a type of rhetorical argument when it comes to boys. It has a powerful effect, right? So maybe I'm wrong. I'm that's an opinion of mine. I don't think there's a ton of literature on that or a ton of other anecdotal evidence of that. It's something I've noticed, and it's something that I think is true. I want to address John Sirwa's note here. Controlled opposition, biometric surveillance companies back RFK Jr. John, I believe you have been spun by some prompt engineers out there. You got to provide some evidence of that. I know RFK. I've met him. I don't think there's any controlled opposition going on here. So that's just me. And not only have I met him and talked to him and spent time with him, and maybe I got confused, fooled. It's possible. I'm not a walking lie detector, but I know a lot of other people now. In case you didn't know, after he came to Miami for Bitcoin 2023, when he spent days with all of us, a lot of people sort of from that world have now entered into the campaign in their own ways. And a lot of people have a ton of access and private conversations and just shooting the shit and chilling with them. So I get a lot of firsthand information, firsthand, not secondhand, firsthand information from individuals who I've known in the Bitcoin world for 10 years. And it's looking like a sincere show. All right. So unless you want to give me some evidence, I'm not saying you didn't see dumb shit about him. There's a ton of dumb shit about him out there, a ton, right? But Fake. Don't believe anything like that. I mean, look, we have to say, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe something will come out, but we're dealing with a person whose father was killed at a very, very young age, and who went immediately to a heroin addiction and lost his brother to a heroin addiction and was a drug addict for years. If you should actually hear some of his testimony on what he hopes to do as president. V says all presidents are puppets. Oh, yeah, ever since his uncle. His uncle was not a puppet, and nor was Eisenhower. Eisenhower was no one's puppet. So if you say all presidents are puppets, I mean, Nixon was a real president. They killed him, or not killed him, really. They did a Trump thing on him. They created fake Watergate and ruined him. But Watergate is exactly like what happened to Trump. It's exactly the same as Russia collusion. The only difference is Trump had the internet. Trump had Emma Jo Morris. Trump had other people that were able to see through it all. Nixon didn't have that. It was a different time and a different place. But Nixon knew what happened to Kennedy, right? So he knew who his enemies were. He knew LBJ and the national security interests and the CIA and all these people worked together. And Kennedy has been saying that for a while now. So now I get why people say, oh, he's doing it for power, but just look at it. If he was as he is a Kennedy, all he needs to do is suck a little dick and he would have any one of the things people say he wants. That's why he's controlled opposition, right? He would get it by saying Trump is a racist. That's all he would have to do. His cousin is ambassador to Japan or whatever, the girl, or maybe she passed away, I'm not sure, but JFK Jr.'s sister, I don't know if she's still alive, Caroline Kennedy. Look, these people have been grifting off the Democrat Party forever. I don't know if she's a grifter necessarily, but there's people who have been there's people who have seen this. So anyway, the point is he I think is sincere, and that's what I've been checking myself for a long time, right? Is he sincere? I keep asking myself that question: is he sincere? And he passes the test every time. So there you go, right? There you go. So all presidents are puppets, yeah, but that's what we're trying to break. Right, that's what we're trying to break. One of the things that Trump was no puppets. After Trump, it's after Nixon, it's only Trump. Now Trump was manipulated, but puppet is the wrong word, right? He was convinced, he was fooled by Republicans themselves. His major problem was getting in bed with all of these Paul Ryans and Rhinos and all these other people at the start of his campaign, and that's why people like Mike Cernovich should be always listened to, because he was the first person to turn his back on Trump when Trump showed signs of trying to go along to get along or whatever else afflicted him at the time. So now, just like that, you can also see that Cernovich has a lot of credibility. Anyone who has the neuroplasticity of being able to change their mind, right? Cernovich made his career, as he says, by attending a Trump rally early when no one knew who he was. And all he did was turn the camera back on the audience and the media and everyone coming. He thought that was the most interesting story. Who's coming? How are they talking about it? No one thought about that angle. Everyone was just like, what is Trump saying? So he did that, right? And saw things in that direction. And Cernovich made a huge career out of that observation. And then he got White House press credentials in the very early days of the Trump White House. He was actually one of those guys with a lanyard that went and, what did the president say? And all that stuff. So he did that for like a year. And then once he saw that the Paul Ryans of the world were coming in, he was like, I'm out. This guy sucks, right? And now he is one of the first people to admit that Trump has a very special bond with the American population. So abandon, back to him, all these things, right? A really important proof of work, let's say, right? That he's been able to be true to his own perception and his own predictions. So anyway, the point is this cover-up clown thing and the female laughter, excellent. And here's the other thing that we finally found out yesterday. And I don't think there's any debate about it anymore, right? So, but there was an amazing smoking gun yesterday when it comes to the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden payments with Ukraine, everything that Trump was asking about, for which he was impeached in 2019, 2020, the perfect phone call with Zelensky. It turns out that, well, here's let me find the best way to put it. So they found out that there's a ton of proof. The laptop from hell really indeed was the laptop from hell. It ended up doing the following, right? So the Burisma CEO claimed to possess text messages, wire transfers, and 17 recordings, 2 with Joe Biden and 15 with Hunter Biden, showing he was forced to pay the Bidens to ensure the firing of Victor Shokin. So, of course, this was the person they wanted out. That's the one he was bragging about getting fired years ago. The FBI knew the Hunter Biden laptop was real since January 2018. So everything they did with the Emma Jo Morris, with the 51 known liars, which I've been calling them the 51 known liars since then, right? I'm glad 51 people put their name down on a piece of paper and said, I'm lying, right? And I could see the technique immediately, all the earmarks of, they were doing all that weasel wording. It was just a bunch of weasel words. To a lawyer and a trained prompt engineer like myself that understands the manipulation and malleability of language and what you can do with it, this was obviously fake from the start, right? I could see the weasel words. If you put weasel words in it like that, I knew it was insincere, but that's not proof, right? So here's what I want to find and even remember Catherine Herridge. She needs a lot of credit. She's a CBS journalist, right? But she's the first one who actually did that forensic interview with these forensic guys about the Hunter Biden laptop. She was the first mainstream media person to confirm the authenticity of the Hunter Biden laptop, that it wasn't Russian disinformation. She didn't get into the story about how much this stuff was hidden before, but here she is reporting on Joseph Ziegler, the guy who testified 2 days ago, and saying IRS whistleblower Joseph Ziegler drafted this prosecution report late in 2021. Multiple felony misdemeanor charges span 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Note, the Department of Justice Taxmark Daily agrees with the prosecution recommendation of the above cited charges against Hunter Biden. Greg Price breaks it down like this. Burisma pays $10 million bribe to VP Joe Biden and Hunter Biden to have prosecutor Victor Shokin fired. Biden brags publicly about getting Shokin fired. 2019, Trump gets impeached over a phone call with Zelensky asking him what happened to the prosecutor. That's what happened. That's it. That's it. And the FBI knew since 2018 that it was fake. So what do we have here? We have exactly what the theme of the day is. This is prompt engineering, right? Exactly what Kennedy was complaining about in his testimony yesterday, the lying, the gaslighting. It's all the same as prompt engineering as far as I'm concerned. If your goal is artificial ignorance, which was the goal, right? You want to keep people artificially ignorant of all these things. You can still go to this day and ask any Democrat, and you can just see how talking points work, right? Ask a Democrat who doesn't follow this stuff, right? Not a person who's motivated and hates Trump, just an average person who's like a doctor that you know, or has a normal job, and isn't really paying attention to the news, and say, well, you know, what about this laptop thing? Well, that's all taken care of, and nothing is. It's just dick pics. It's just some dick pics, right? Why do the Republicans want to see dick pics all the time? Like, God, it's really a story about addiction, right? Addiction. Because, you know, like the father and his kid, he loves him. He loves him. The father didn't do anything wrong, right? So that's what we're dealing with here. So all of that lying, here's Michael Schellenberger talking about it. In 2020, the FBI repeatedly warned Twitter and Facebook of a forthcoming Russian disinformation operation about Hunter Biden. When the New York Post published emails from this laptop, Twitter and Facebook censored the content. Now an FBI official admits FBI knew the laptop was real. Massive, right? Indeed, I think it is massive. I think this could start leading to more and more defections and more momentum for the RFK campaign. Now, remember, RFK's path to victory is actually quite simple. It's not complicated, right? If RFK beats Biden, he wins. He can beat Trump, right? Democrats they'll support him, right? They will, even with all this crazy shit they're saying about him. So Schellenberger and all the news that are putting this stuff together, you're going to get more and more, let's call them defections, right? You're going to get that Armageddon type situation where you have the firecracker blow up from the inside. RFK is so devastating internally that this could happen, right? Mike Harris says, you are making absolute nonsense. All right, what am I getting wrong, Mike? Tell me. Tell me. Or run away or tell me, okay? Tell me what I'm getting wrong, Mike Harris from who knows where. Laugh your ass off elsewhere, loser. All right. So the other thing yesterday, right, if you want to even mention what's going on with prompt engineering and how you can actually create ignorance like our friend here, Mike Harris, right? Mike Harris. Disagree. The lefties won't support RFK. They'll vote for, well, whatever. I mean, the good news is, right? The good news is we have so many candidates that can do it. Just look at Vivek's path to victory. It's incredible, right? So Vivek yesterday had probably the greatest Trump argument that I've ever heard for him to beat Trump, which is the following. He goes, everything Trump does is great. The problem with Trump is he creates a psychological distortion in people's heads, right? People get TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, like Mike Harris, one of the stupidest fucks that's ever come on the show. And if that's the case, right, all these broken brains, all of this antagonism, he says, Vivek said, and it's kind of like the magic trick of Trump, right? It's the good and the bad, right? It's the prompt engineering aspect of him. Something I've never been able to explain how Trump does that other than my bully frame, right? The bully frame is that because Trump is a bully, 100%, I'll never deny Trump's a bully. And I get why there's a certain portion of the population that cannot stand him. You know, my mother was a waitress for years, right? She can't look at Trump. She can't handle it. She doesn't think he's evil or anything, but she's just seen too much of that, you know, charming guy, you know. Now, it's definitely because things have been put in her brain and all that. She thinks he's funny, but she's like, he seems like a creep and all that. Now, I'm not trying to say that. As I've said many times, I love Trump. Love the guy, right? I'm not one of those people that gets affected by seeing a bully or hearing a bully, and I'm just not, right? It doesn't have that effect on me. So the whole point here is that Vivek said, right, and I think he's right. He came out and said, look, I can do everything Trump does, but I don't create this crazy reaction in people's heads, right? I'm not going to destabilize whatever 30% of the country by saying the exact same thing Trump says. And that's one of the only ways you can criticize Trump in a way, right? I don't see that causing any trouble. I don't think Trump is going to open up the guns on Vivek. Remember, Trump is actually, you know, if you treat Trump well, he doesn't become an asshole, right? If you do what DeSantis did, you're going to get obliterated. If you do what Cruz did, if you're like a feckless person on the side trying to snipe at Trump with it, maybe he won't notice, right? He's going to punch you in the face. He's going to knock you right out. Now Vivek just comes out and says, respect him, love him, all this stuff. Now, some folks here, Hotel Goddess saying, now Hotel Goddess, be careful. You're being prompt engineered here. Okay. Because I've seen those talking points. They come from the DeSantis talking point machine, which is running out of money. And they don't like that he's about to pass DeSantis in the polls. Now, I like DeSantis. I don't got a problem with him. I've said for a long time, I don't want him running. I don't like him as president necessarily. I wouldn't cry if he won. He's not going to. He's too boring. He's very low energy, right? Imagine him on stage next to Vivek. I mean, there's no wattage. You would just like, oh, right. Oh, Vivek is talking about all kinds of amazing, like he makes the news every day. Vivek makes the news every day. That's skill. That's technique, right? And we had Vivek at Bitcoin 2023, and you just being in just hanging out with him and talking with him, you see the wattage and the energy and everything. You know, we had months of negotiations to get DeSantis, and it just a feckless, you know, I don't know, Bitcoin. That's when he came in and did the do Bitcoin interview. If people want to do Bitcoin, when he went on the podcast with Elon Musk and all those guys, people can do Bitcoin, right? That happened right after our show. So, you know, you just not in the game, kind of, right? But you know, if he was president, I would be happy. But what I've been saying about him for a long time is, okay, you're going to go fight the woke. Well, what do I get with someone who fights the woke? I'm going to get more woke. Right? There's going to be more woke people fighting him. I don't need people fighting woke like this, right? You can let it die because it's prompt engineering. It's not real, right? It comes from the prompt engineers. You got to change the prompt engineers and you won't get that. And now, yeah, you can say that he's swampy because he said, oh, I like masks. But look, his answer on January 6th, for example, is the greatest January 6th answer ever presented in public, which is, look, January 6th, every American needs to stand up and take responsibility for January 6th. It's not Trump the villain. It's not the protesters. It's not anyone like that. It's everybody. They censored this, they censored that. You couldn't, this laptop case, you couldn't have this conversation, you couldn't have that conversation. All of that led to a boil over and a spillover, which was January 6th protests, right? That's pretty easy to see. But no one has ever said it like that. No one has ever blamed censorship for January 6th like he did. And he was right. So Vivek Swampy, maybe, look, I don't know, but if something happened, blah, 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 Kennedy's shot, they actually put Trump in jail, all this stuff, and Vivek somehow becomes president, I'll be very happy, right? Very happy. Or even if he just straight up wins, I'm a fan, right? I don't think we've ever been as well served in America with the people running as we are right now. This is as good as it gets, right? We're used to low IQ know-nothings running, and now we've got RFK jacked. We got Vivek, one of the smartest people to ever run, I think, right? He's a smart, just horsepower. We're dealing with Clinton level intelligence here, Bill, right? We're dealing with Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon level cerebral capacity, cognitive capacity here. Next level stuff, right? Next level stuff. Now, personally, I like RFK because I'm a one-issue candidate, right? I am a one-issue candidate. Give me the Bitcoin, right? So it's hard for me to not be an RFK supporter because I'm a one-issue candidate, a one-issue voter, right? I'm not a candidate. I'm not running in any election. So I'm a one-issue voter, right? Now, when RFK talks about backing the US dollar with Bitcoin, to me, this takes care of all of our problems. That's why I'm a one issue. We take care of the drug problem. We take care of the cartels. We take care of all of this if we change the money, right? And I think most Bitcoiners are aligned with that point of view. But indeed, we need to get, to that point. So I think we will. Just look at what's about to happen, even on the financial plane, right? Look at how much prompt engineer lies we're about to learn about. So, Elizabeth Warren building an army. Remember her building an army, anti-crypto army. Remember she had those advertisements? So she's building an army worthy. And remember what we talked about the other day, that Elizabeth Warren is suing the FTC has been bullying Twitter. So guess what happened? Elon Musk and Twitter are now subpoenaing and re-suing Elizabeth Warren's communications with the FTC and the SEC. So here's what's happening. Twitter will subpoena Senator Elizabeth Warren's communications with federal agencies such as the FTC and SEC. Warren has been repeatedly targeting Elon Musk and his companies over the past several years, attempting to weaponize her Senate seat to take down a political adversary. This week, Senator Warren began publicly urging the Securities and Exchange Commission to open up an investigation of Tesla as well as Twitter and consider enforcement actions against executives. Now, because the SEC is 100% completely corrupted, this could actually happen. But again, we're going to get discovery. We're going to get information. And that's really where we're at here. I believe and I feel like we're on the precipice of all kinds of information breaking free, coming out, and this whole conversation changing, right? Imagine what a better position we'll be in without the lying and the prompt engineering and people trying to save their asses like what we see in Ukraine and Hunter. Look at what we've done just to save Hunter. It's not worth it. Look at all the fighting Americans are going through so that Hunter Biden can hang out and do coke on the White House porch. Now, I don't know if he did. It looked like it. Right? It looked like he took a bump once on the Truman porch on July 4th. I don't know. It just looked like it, right? I perhaps got prompt engineered into believing that. But there you go, right? There you go. All right. I got one more story after this, and it's the Patrick Bet David and Anthony Weiner, but I want to read a couple of these comments first. Considering going to one issue candidate also, Bitcoin maximal earns my vote. Yeah, I mean, in the end, we're going to reconfigure the federal government. We're going to reconfigure politics because we changed the money. And so all of this stuff goes away if we change the money. That's why I'm a one issue candidate. It's the only way to get everything at once, right? Political memes are a technical technique of word weaponized mockingbird word weaponized mockingbird propaganda. Yeah, but the good news is the left can't meme. Only Bitcoiners and the right can meme, so they don't have access to that stuff. Have you even go on Threads for 2 seconds and hear about what kind of shit's going on there? It's like beautiful people saying, "I like to ride a bicycle." It's not going to do it, and no one uses it anymore. It's done, right? There you go. What if climate change is just a Jungian repression of people's inner climate change they are denying? I think that's a good way of putting it, Bitcoin Graffiti. I think that's a good way of putting it, yeah. Joe, he definitely did a bump. I lived through the 80s. Yeah, it looked like it to me. That's what I saw on the porch. It looked like a coke bump to me, but who knows? Veterans Cannabis Groups asks, is that before or after the aliens? Now, remember everything I said yesterday about the simulation and the aliens. I forgot to add there could have been prehistoric aliens, by the way, right? Because it's just about one linear story lining up. Now, Simulation 3 accepts that you can go back in time. You can discover the past that hasn't been written yet, right? The past is written in convenience. We could easily find an ancient alien civilization on Earth. That's possible. But two simultaneous civilizations, not possible, according to simulation theory, right? The computing power to create such a two-world situation that lines up is very difficult to imagine. So there you go. There you go. All right. I guess our friend, what's his name here? Mike Harris, I guess, left. Poor Mike. Poor Mike. Mike, we loved you. Come around. Talk to us. MSN is just projecting what's happening inside. Climate change, aliens, everything. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Is AI an alien? Kind of. Yeah, kind of. A little bit. A little bit. Otherworldly intelligence, right? Which we know exists. There is otherworldly intelligence, right? The Bible is very clear about it. There's other stories of it people can see, right? So here's one I gotta recommend to you guys. I don't quite know what to say about it. It was super interesting. So Anthony Weiner, the guy who did all the dick pics to the girls, right? And who was married to Hillary Clinton's, Good Woman Friday, Huma Abedin. I don't know what she's doing these days. But so Anthony Weiner was married to her, but he had all kinds of relationships with teenage girls and blah, blah, blah. And apparently he's got some laptop that's full of trouble. And so he went on Patrick Bet-David's show yesterday. And first of all, Patrick Bet-David's really good. I mean, he's a really, really talented media orchestrator. So if you watch this, it was very, very interesting stuff, right? So he was pushing Weiner to talk about the kill list that Hillary Clinton has, right? And he defended it in a decent way, right? He was effective in defending. You can tell also Weiner is a very skilled arguer and debater. Patrick Bet-David had him in a corner and pounded on him, and he survived. He looked a bit foolish sometimes, and you could tell there's some lying going on. But I got to tell you, this guy's going to be around again because he was great. So you're going to hear more from Anthony Weiner, which I love, right? Anthony Weiner, just the laptop that he had in that election was great. In the 2016 election, here's even what he says about. So he's got his own radio show now, right? So he's coming on. Oh, and even just he got caught with one interesting lie where he tried to use a power play just to show you how manipulative these people can be, right? Who you're dealing with, actually. So he made a mistake and said he was having a conversation on the phone with someone before he went on Patrick Bet-David's call about how he should handle it. But then he turns around and Patrick Bet-David caught him because he comes in and says, when he told that story, Patrick Bet-David broke him off and said, look, you walked in this room and introduced yourself and asked me my name, a power play kind of thing, a manipulation, right? So right away, Patrick Bet-David was like, already you were being a dick. You knew who I am. What are you trying to pretend like I'm some podcaster you don't know, right? But here's one interesting thing Anthony Weiner said. He said, DeSantis is campaigning like a pussy, is what he's doing. Pardon me if you have children in the room, I should have warned. But this is Anthony Weiner talking. DeSantis is campaigning like a pussy is what he's doing. When you want to take out the king, you got to mean it. He doesn't. He fell in love with his own narrative about himself. Polling looked amazing, but then the world around changes. So I got to tell you, like, I don't like, he's a Anthony Weiner is a disgusting human being. Like, I'm disgusted by him. I'm revolted by him. Right? He's a revolting human being. And I loved watching Patrick Bet-David punch him, beat him up around the thing. But you have to admire his weaseliness. He's one of the great all-time weasels. And because he's such a great all-time weasel, you just know he's going to come back in this movie. It's all just, it's a simulation, guys, right? We know that. The most entertaining outcome is the most likely. And the reason why we love RFK is because to close the book on this era, we got to know about what happened to Kennedy, his uncle. We're going to find out what the truth about the last 60 years was. And all of that is going to lead to a Bitcoin standard because we're going to be done with the saturation of politics and government. We're going to reconstitute things. We're going to separate money and state. That is going to be the excuse. That's going to be the fake reason that everyone accepts for which they were hypnotized by the mainstream media, why they were lied to, why they fell for it, right? Bitcoin is an out. It's an out for everyone. It's a face-saving out for everyone. So that's part of the story. But you just know Weiner's coming back. Weiner's coming back with something juicy. And it's going to be, the next year is going to be probably the most entertaining year the world has ever known. Ever. It's going to be great. So there you go. All right. Mike has left the building. Indeed. Veterans Cannabis Group says, yeah, apparently already found ancient civilization in Antarctica. Yeah, we'll see. Antarctica looks like a scam. We'll find out more about Antarctica, I hope. I'm a Republican that will vote for RFK and going to Burning Man this year. There you go. Awesome, Stephen Palmer. Amazing stuff, man. The otherworldly intelligence might also be rediscovering the human body and the ancient knowledge inside we've forgotten. It might all just be unconscious projection of our lost nature. I think so. And I noticed someone mentioning that they're getting prompt engineered by Robert Sepper lately. Let me go up to that comment. I'm going to go do a couple more and then we'll be President Bobby Jr., Tommy says, do you think RFK Jr. will select a centrist Republican or as a running mate? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Billy, I do believe that. Yeah, I believe he will do a national reconciliation ticket. So I could totally imagine that, Billy. A Vivek VP, 100%. All right. Where do we go here? I like this one from Bitcoin can heal the mockingbird blinded to see true monetary reality. Absolutely, yeah. Tommy, Obama was the most effective puppet in the lot, so effective that he got Biden by default. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Remember, Biden's vice president thing was like, I'm friends with Obama. that was the whole shtick, right? We're buddies. You are asking all the right questions, but that's my bias. We hope to. And he can hold his own like Dad and Uncle Jack and do what needs to be done. That's what I believe. Yeah. What are the chances? I think they're 100%. I think it's 100% that he does it. 100%. 100% he does the Bitcoin thing. Look, guys, he gets it. I don't know what to tell you. That's my feeling. Spot on. Have close to 10 years head start and 2 wonderful kids, talking about the laughing with the girls stuff. All right, this is the one I was after. Been on a deep dive on Robert Seffer, and I definitely am getting prompt engineered by Robert Seffer. Yeah, he's great, huh? Yeah, Robert Seffer's great. Now, I don't know all of it, but I like the stories. I like the videos. He's got a lot of great stuff. I'm a big fan. All right. JFK until this very day, one grand government deep state lie. I think so. Yeah. It's not the country we thought. Yeah. It's not the country we thought it was. That might be in the alien archetype. Yeah. And this is Bitcoin Graffiti talking about this Jungian projection and sort of paralyzation a lot of people have with not being able to encounter their shadow, or a society not being able to encounter its shadow because the money's effed. All right, last one here. Diesel Kane. Don't forget to destroy the like button before your device blows up in 30 seconds. There you go. All right, team. That's all I got. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll probably still be here in Montreal. Peace, everyone. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. The direction for the US would be set October 22nd. Yeah, I see those. Yeah. That's where it's coming. Well, it's more than the money. Yeah. We're going to get, it is more than the money, but the money can help us get there, Bitcoin Graffiti. That's what I'm saying. It's about, what you just got to move it a little bit into a new direction and we'll be able to get there. All right, everyone. Peace. Hold on one more time. It's the whole hyper internal internetization. But again, Bitcoin makes the internet real in a weird way, right? So that's, Bitcoin is sort of the last, we had a information internet, which was fine, but we didn't have one that could actually have private property. We had free, a type of communications protocol, but we didn't have a property protocol. So to me, the internet wasn't complete without Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the last piece of the puzzle to make the internet actually consistent, right? It makes it material. That's what I mean. Yeah. Otherwise, it was just some movies and some culture, right? It was the cost of information. We didn't have a chance to make. So remember, time is money, right? Time is money. Money is time. But in the old way, because we hadn't invented money yet, money was actually time plus the cost of information, plus the cost of energy, plus the cost of aircraft carriers, plus the cost of bullets, plus the cost of the courts, plus the cost of the police, plus the cost of blah, 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 right? So what we want is time to just be money and money to be time. And because Satoshi invented money, he invented it. We had facsimiles, but he invented it. And it reminds me, and I'll be talking about this more. I heard this weekend at church, which I went to with my in-laws, and weirdly, they were talking about counterfeit money in the service. And did you know that if you are fighting counterfeit money, probably less so these days, but in the old days, the way to fight counterfeit money was not to memorize the different tricks and the signs of fake money and which techniques are working. It had nothing to do with that. The way to detect, the system that's used to detect counterfeit money is to familiarize yourself with the authentic. It had nothing to do with learning about techniques that are fake. All they did was learn every little detail of the real thing. And that helps you detect fake things. And that's what we haven't been able to do for a long time. Right? We think like, oh, that person's rich. Well, they might be in super debt, right? Like, that's not rich. So the idea of familiarizing yourself with the authentic is what we've lost, because you need the authentic to be a reference. If the authentic isn't the reference, if the fake is the reference, it'll never end. You'll never be successful at determining what is real and what isn't. And so that's where we're at. Gold 106 says, I'm inclined to side with RFK simply due to the fact that his family have suffered true loss and corruption. I'm honestly, Gold 106, that's where I'm at. That's why I think the story is effective. That's why I think his and everything Vivek said, I agree with as well. I love Trump, love him, but I don't want to spend the next 4 years not getting to a Bitcoin standard, not changing the world, and just talking about how Trump made people feel crazy again. Now, I believe everyone's gonna get over it. I can't wait to the day that Trump is celebrated as one of the greatest presidents in the history of America, that he is a national hero. I hope to see that. I pray I see that. I think I will see that. But another 4 years of dealing with Trump derangement syndrome, I'm not interested. I'm out. I don't want it, right? Now, if he wins, look, the mental breakdown is going to be hilarious. We're going to have so much fun laughing. But there's shit to pick up after. And when I think of Vivek or Kennedy, you get the same results without they're different. So it's not like it. You know how people thought that DeSantis was like Trump without the craziness? Well, he wasn't. He's just nothing, right? Vivek and RFK are Trump without the craziness because they're different people. They have different opinions. They're not trying to do a bit of a copy. You know, DeSantis copied everything Trump did. The hands, right? He was doing the Trump hand thing, right? So there you go. Diesel the internet was created for Bitcoin. Absolutely. All right, team. I really am going this time. Peace. Enjoy your day. Hope everything goes great. See you tomorrow. One more. You're right. So, David, I agree with you 100%, and I'm 100% into it. All right. So if it does happen, I'm with Trump 100%. No doubt about it. No doubt. If RFK gets whacked, Vivek loses, there's no. I would never go for Biden or any of these fucking crazy people. You'd have to go for Trump. So I get it. But remember, people who were 2015 maximum Trump supporters like myself, who were with him every minute of the day, who were with him. I never left his defense ever. Even Billy Bush Sunday, the grabbing, right? Even then, I was like, oh, he's got to win. As ugly as that was, he's got to win. Look, I love him. I'll always love him. It's love. I love him. But we gotta think about what is best strategically for everyone. And again, I'm a one-issue candidate. So there you go. What is your opinion on aliens buying Bitcoin? There are no aliens, but I bet they would like it. Maybe the ancient civilizations will be into it. Who knows? We might have ancient people here. We don't know. Right? I'm a believer in that stuff. All right, Bitcoin Graffiti. We can't extend the show. We have stuff to take care of this morning, but I appreciate everyone. Again, very thankful that you come every morning and have coffee with me and talk about new things and Bitcoin. All right, peace. I'm an alien. Peace.